Dr. K. She is the owner of Shattered Glass Leadership, and she has developed a workshop that creates the time and provides expert content to level up in your daily leadership practice. So, Dr. K, the stage is all yours, darling.
Thanks a million, Denise. And thank you, Haley, for putting this on. Tish, all the hard work you've been doing to make this all happen behind the scenes. I know this stuff can feel like herding cats. If you have cats, you know that that is a feat in itself. So I am Dr. Christine Medjanik. I run Shattered Glass Leadership. I have been teaching at the collegiate level for 15 years. When I started teaching, I was younger than most of my students. I was in my early 20s, and that is actually where I met Susan with Profit Logics. Her and I have developed a long-term relationship, and I'm really excited to be here today. Social selling is such an interesting concept because there's so much behind the scenes that happens in our brains and in the people that are happening around you. So I am going to just take 1 minute. Oh, somebody needs to enable my screen share. I'm going to be talking about motivation language. Drop in the chat what you think of when you think about motivation. What comes to mind when you're thinking about being motivated? Now I'm going to wait for that screen share to come up as an option. There it is. All right. So we are on. I just need to get, it's always funny how your screens sort of shift around when that happens, huh? And then I've got my chat up too. So let me know if you have questions along the way. Feel free to drop things in the chat. What Shattered Glass Leadership does, we empower women to unapologetically show up in their strengths. There is a lot of science behind strengths. There is a lot of science behind personalities. There's a lot of science behind motivation. We've got something you love doing, language to drive action, choice, and decision. Tish just dropped my website in. You should check it out because there are superheroes all over the place. And who doesn't love some superheroes? When I think about engaging my customer in their motivation language, I have to start asking myself that question: what is motivation? And that science behind motivation talks about internal motivators and external motivators. External motivators are the stuff. It's the money, it's the recognition. Our internal motivators are the things that fire up your gut, make you take action because of a piece of pride or a belief that you have that you're driving yourself to a result. A lot of us as entrepreneurs have a plethora of internal motivators that push us on a day-to-day basis. But sometimes we need a little help to dial in what we're doing with that space. We are trying to get people to respond with their head, heart, and gut and go, right? When we're putting stuff out in our social media, when we're putting messages out, we want people to have that gut reaction to us. What most of us don't recognize, much like the love languages, there are things that drive individuals more quickly. And that's what we're going to cover today, is what those drivers are. Before I go any further, I've got another participation opportunity. Drop in the chat which of these 4 concepts resonates with you the most. Data-driven, people first, end results, or big picture. Which one makes you go, that's what's important? People first, data, people first. Good. Okay, we got a lot of people. Good. People first. I love it. Okay. Big picture. People first and big picture. Good, you guys. Okay. So here's what's really interesting. Have you guys heard of the book, The Love Languages, right? We've got those 5 love languages. And most of us in an early relationship do all 5 of those, right? We're digging in with all 5 of those. That's why it's easy to fall in love. But then we kind of settle into our own. We settle into that thing that resonates with us the most. So most of you just dropped in the chat the thing that resonates with you the most. I would bet that much of the work you put out into the world has that as its primary flavor. So if we are data driven, the driver behind what we are doing is the question, why? If we are people first, the driver is who. If we are an end results person, we are saying, what do you want me to do? And what will the result be? And if we are a big picture person, we are a how person. Most of us have 2 or 3 of these. We have a primary and a secondary. Sometimes that secondary and third are kind of tied. And then we have that one that's way back there that we just sort of go, not important to me, right? Not important to me. So let's dig into each a bit more. Let's talk a little bit about what each one looks like, because this will hopefully help you identify whether or not you are hitting these languages in your media activities in some way, shape, or form. Not every post, not every activity, but are you hitting some of these, or are you only hitting one? So motivated by the who drive, we are driven by a need to weave people together. I saw a ton of you drop that in the chat. You see the world through stories. How are people impacted? And your focus can shift rapidly from people to the people to the people, right? This is the thing, this is the trend, this is the part that's impacting people. You are unlikely to wait to make decisions if your heart is involved. And you can be demotivated if there's no spotlight involved. What drives me, and I put that on purpose because I am a what person. I am driven by action. Absolutely, action first. I seek results through a challenge. I like a solid competition. I see concrete, pragmatic, tactical goals. This is what happens to me in a meeting. And if you're a what person, you'll recognize this. I sit through a meeting and I walk out of the meeting and I go, why did I have to be there? None of it was related to anything I have to accomplish. So I am constantly looking back at the meeting and going, wait, was that for me? The UPS guy must be here. I have to apologize. I knew that was going to happen right as we got to talking. Accountability is key for a what person. If you say you're going to do something, if you say I'm going to get a result, if you say this is what the problem that's going to be solved, that better be the case. I am not interested in too many options. I don't like to have conversations that feel philosophical by nature, where we talk about 4,000 different ideas when half of them can't even be brought to life. And I'm demotivated by a people first approach. So I have a tendency, because my people first is my last driver, I have a tendency to drop the who way in the back. So I lean on people that remind me to tell the stories. Why, oh, why? Prove it. These people seek truth through validation of data. They are not easily impressed, and they are highly detail-oriented. Data, data, data. They are the people that are going to message you on the side and say, hey, you have a typo. Hey, you have a piece of data that's 12 years old, so that's no longer relevant information. Your link to the back end is not working. Those are the people that are going to lose credibility. You are going to lose credibility so fast if you are not putting meaningful, valid information into your content. Promotes caution. They are the people that are going to drag their feet on change, you guys. They are going to be the hard sells, because they're going to say, prove it. I don't need that, prove it. I don't need that, prove it. They don't want to be rushed. These are your long games. These are your long game sales pitches, if you will. And they are unlikely to let it go or move on. So these are the people that are going to have their flip phones still. You might have the coolest app for the new smartphones, and they are going to go, it still works. Why would I change? Right? Those are the people that are going to really, really resist the change in technology, in adopting a new product, in all of those activities, they are going to say, prove it first, provide the data, then I'll think about it, but don't rush me. So be thinking about that. How is the big picture question? They see patterns and connections. They appreciate being able to find the path to a solution. So this is a person that you're gonna want to give smaller amounts of information to so that they can see how it relates to them. You've got to give them the opportunity to get there on their own and see how your concept, your product, your offerings solve a problem. So you give them what I like to call a shadow of an idea, right? And then let them get there on their own. They are demotivated by limits and they resist being forced into decisive action. So we saw that from the whys too. They don't like to be rushed. These guys don't want to dial into one, right? Which was different than our whats too. They don't want too many options. They want that decisive option. They want to go for it. They want to try it out. You can, in my professional world, you see me acting as my what, and I have to work at it because I will say things like, you can't break the internet. How bad can it be? Right? And I'll go, oh, let's just try, because I just want to get to action. I just want to get to that part where we're doing something. Don't want to keep talking about it. Now, our how group is going to be far more likely to be interested in longer term opportunities to explore a lot of different concepts and ideas and see how it all relates and how it all connects. And they're going to want that time. So what does this mean, you guys? Jump in with me and talk to me about this. What does this mean? If we're posting something in social media, what do we do? What do we have to do to reach several of these people in one post? What does that look like? You can chat or you can come off mic with me.
Well, at the risk of being that person, you could post an infographic.
Infographics. Who's that going to talk to, you guys?
Well, they usually have data, so data people are going to like them. They usually are pretty comprehensive, so big project people are going to like them. And if you have a good copy on it, then people are going to like them too.
Who's not going to like it? Our how group.
1% that you can't please.
Yeah, our how group is going to sort of resist that, right? That's too many of the puzzle pieces given to them. So what do we do if we're social selling to our how group? How do we reach them? What's another idea that we can incorporate for them and not for somebody else maybe?
Ask them to join you in an information session where you tell them how.
Except they want to find out how by themselves, right? They want to get to that big picture by themselves, or get to the steps by themselves. So when I talk about leadership, this is where I talk about intent-based leadership. This is so important in our organizations and our relationships with our how group, that we tell intent and we let our people come to the hows. They develop the steps, they develop the action items, they develop the parts that lead to that outcome, right? We get the how, and the rest of it is sort of filled in by that group. Our who's are really, really going to want the stories. Now, I want to point back to this morning presentation that Suze with Profit Logics did, because she had such intention in how she was reaching out to so many different platforms at the same time. And it was all really intentional with education moments and offerings and other pieces, right? You can apply that same concept to reaching out to these different kinds of people. I opened up talking about the love languages, because what happens is, especially in our businesses, we tackle people in our language, and then we don't understand why we're not connecting. Now, stop and think for a minute. I have a whole bunch of people in the room. I saw it hit, right? A whole bunch of people. Now, what if I'm a Y person and I come at you with buckets of data and spreadsheets? What happens? Susan's got a hashtag guilty again. Wait, what was that? It's too much. Why? Because you just don't care. That's just, I don't need that. I don't need all that data, right? Overwhelmed, switch off. But if we can tell a story with the data, or if we can tell a story and then link to the data so that our why people can go in and dig and dig and dig, then that's really helpful for them. And then you get both of those people, tell the story, link the data. Yeah, Haley, that's why you guys probably work to use different types of communication. Exactly. Suze is looking at multiple ways to communicate with her audience on a regular basis. So I listed on this slide, bringing it all together. We're talking about that a little bit. We're practicing that a little bit. Those 4 components: stories, data, big picture, and action equaling a specific result. If you can find ways to hit 2 of those 4 in every single interaction, or alternating them on a regular basis, right? Now, don't always do the stories and big picture, right? You still have to navigate through all of them. But if an interaction contains at least 2 of those 4, you're going to hit a large percentage of your audience in terms of their motivation language, because you will make sure that you are connecting. Remember what I said at the beginning, most of us have 2 or 3 of those drivers as something that at least gets to us. If you spend time with me, if you join a boot camp in the coming months, if you are in the Pacific Northwest and join a retreat, we go super deep into all of these areas in terms of communicating with our teams, communicating with our customers. You'll learn a lot more strategies for what each one of these things looks like. So be thinking about that. But I got distracted by the comments for a second. Yeah, Haley says videos, infographics, pictures, stories, tips. Who likes tips? You guys, based on what we're talking about, who would like the tips? The high level. Tips are high level, right? Our how people are going to like those tips, because you're going to give them the high tidbit and they're going to figure out how to apply that and where applying it makes sense. And then they're going to find patterns to see if it makes sense in other spaces as well. When we talk about action, what that means for a what person is you are telling them this action will equal this result. If you do this, you will achieve this. Now, if we have a disconnect there, we need to be watching what our product offerings look like, right? If my product doesn't solve that specific problem, then we need to be aware of the messaging that we're putting out, or we're going to lose our what audience. We, again, have 2 or 3 of those for every single one of us that will drive us. I have an assessment. I'm not sharing that with you because I want you to come to my boot camps, but that assessment will help you identify which one's your primary, secondary, and then third. For me, my secondary and third are tied. And then again, I shared with you that who is something that I have to bring others in to remind me on a regular basis. You gotta think about that people. A little bit of a backstory on me. My doctorate's in organizational industrial psychology. That's where I spend my focus. And I'm fascinated by people. I'm fascinated by the messiness of people and all the beauty that comes with them. That's why I dug into that space. My natural tendencies are really more logical and linear. And so, digging into that academically really, really helped me grow as a person. And I really enjoyed getting into the depths of the human condition. Sue thinks, hot mess. Sue's had the opportunity to join me for an in-person retreat a couple of months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. And it was so fascinating to have people really walk away with these moments in this particular area and go, I've spent years thinking that person was just disengaged or just kind of a turd, but She didn't actually use that word. But what happens when we are not talking their language, people do disengage because they don't understand why they are involved and are what people are fast to jump off of that boat. What do you want from me? Oh, nothing? Then why am I here? Right? So that can apply to that social media aspect as well. Oops, didn't. So connecting for more information. Before I cover that, what kind of questions can I answer for you guys? I'm trying to watch the chat. I have a few minutes left. So what else do you want to know? Do you have a specific example you want to hash out?
Guys, take advantage of this time. I promise you, if you have the courage to go on the hot seat, you're going to walk away with something good. You're going to learn something, or we will.
Jill, thank you. I'm glad that it's making you think a little bit. That's the goal, right? All of us need to consistently recalibrate our approach. When I think about my relationships, when I think about my love language, and this is a space that applies to all of us all the time, right? Because we have significant others in our lives, we may have kids, we probably have parents, or we did, and those relationships are all impacted by that love language and speaking that love language on a regular basis. But we always settle into our own, and then you don't understand why you're not connecting with someone, because, well, I am showing love. I am showing it by doing this, but it's a swing and a miss, right? A big fat swing and a miss, because that person receiving that message is literally speaking in a different emotional language. These motivation language drivers are the same concept. And so if you can walk out of here remembering those 4 drivers, you will have a better understanding of how to connect to people on a regular basis in your social platforms, because you will know to be alternating those things. If one of your things is really story related, balance the next one out with some data. If you're throwing a lot of data at people, make sure you're bringing some testimonials in. Maria says, do you think it's difficult to change my mind, since I always think I can't sell, but yet I don't want to sell? I want to build relationships. Yeah, Maria, I think mindset, I think we've heard a lot about mindset. Changing somebody's mind is difficult. And if you are highly intrinsically driven, if you are motivated intrinsically, that's an internal drive, you are going to have to come to those conclusions on your own, which makes it all the more important that the people communicating with you understand those 4 drivers, because you're definitely not going to hit those people if you're not connecting with them in a way that helps trigger that gut heart reaction, right? So I'm down to just a few minutes. A couple of things, you guys, connect with me on Facebook. I'm at Shattered Glass Leadership, and at Instagram, I'm at Shattered Glass Leaders. My email is also listed here on the screen, and you can check out my website for upcoming events and e-courses. I've got a tactical leadership course, e-course launching in the next few weeks, just finishing up some videos on that. Your freebie includes half off to that. I have also included a behavior-based interview guide. If those words kind of make you go, oh, boring, sorry, that's my why. That's my why happening just a little bit. Behavior-based interviewing is a way to assess people's behaviors. We are in a labor shortage right now. You want to be working to connect with people in meaningful ways and ensure that you are looking at behaviors instead of skills. Skills can be trained. Behaviors cannot. So caveat, behaviors can be up-leveled, but it takes effort and it takes people wanting to be involved in that. So that behavior-based interview guide can help you as a small business owner hire quality people. If you are out in the market trying to get that next job, explore that next opportunity, you can also dig in on some practice questions, because almost every one of those questions will come up in some way, shape, or form. They're going to ask about teamwork. They're going to ask about leadership. They're going to ask about communication skills. They're going to ask about several other components, collaborating. That word was escaping me for a second. Just train wreck. So take a look at those freebies, make sure you grab those. And I will be having some virtual boot camps in October and November that are on my website as well, where we'll dig into this from a leadership perspective at length. I think that's just about my time. I am so grateful to be here today, you guys. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, connect with me by email, or jump on Facebook.
Thank you so much for doing this presentation. This, I think, it really helps people get into that like meat of why your message might not be hitting its target. So thank you so much.
It's so important.
Yeah, huge. So everybody, let's give her a round of applause and some reactions and some
Thanks for
love
having
and some
me.
hearts. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here. This has been wonderful. Thank you.